Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. This is going to be a pretty good show tonight. I want to see who's with us. This is Kristen Reynolds. She's with us tonight. Hi, Kristen. I'm looking to put your name up so everybody knows who you are and set up the little things and wait for everybody to join us. And it looks to me like it went live on Facebook. So if anybody is out there on Facebook, please share, especially if you can share to the groups like extreme weather events that Kristen is the admin of. And we're going to talk about that. And I'm just going to check here and make sure that we're all good. And hello to YouTube. All right, this is going to be a good show. This is Kristen, and I am so happy to introduce to you Kristen. She is the moderator or administrator or whatever you want to call it of two very important Facebook groups. I'm going to flash up the pictures really quick so that you can see. The first one is extreme weather events. And then the second one is climate change facts and consequences. But there's a lot more to Kristen than just that. And we've had roads that we've crossed, and what I do want to say is everyone on the entire planet tonight is talking about Donald Trump. Guess what? We are not. So, welcome, Kristen. And we decided that Kristen is actually going to introduce herself. And she's going to tell us how in the hell she found her way into the abrupt climate change sphere. Welcome, Kristen. Hi.
Hi, Sandy. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi. We're really happy to have you.
So,
All right.
I, I think people can think of me as a group facilitator. I basically help groups be groups, and everything from helping to organize them to just helping to run meetings. I don't really control the group. Groups control themselves. I just
Absolutely.
try to make it easy for them to do what they need to do. So that's essentially what I do.
Well,
And
it's an
yeah.
important place because there's a lot of people that got their first exposure to abrupt climate change and to the reality of what's happening to our planet. So tell me, how did it happen for you? Give us that like
Well,
epiphany moment.
what, what happened for me was that I was reading in March 2015. I read a article in Harper's Magazine about the Arctic, and
Oh,
constantly throughout the article, it kept saying faster than expected, which I know everybody can relate to. And I was an environmental activist type person for basically my whole life.
mm-hmm.
And
Something's wrong. We have to stop for a second.
I'll stop.
There's a lot of people on. Yeah. Okay, it's live. Sorry
Okay.
about that, guys. Sometimes, you have a few little bleeps. I didn't know. I thought we might not be live on YouTube. Okay, my paranoia is over. Continue, my dear Kristen.
Okay. Yeah, anyway, I saw this article. It kept saying faster than expected, and I became very curious. I thought to myself, what does that mean? This article
Yeah.
sounds pretty bad. And I was one of those people who, of course I had seen the movie, An Inconvenient Truth, and I had sort of bought into we had a couple hundred years, because I think at the time that movie went out, it was
Right.
that was sort of the time frame that we were being given. And so I had at that time, I was still very involved with trying to help the planet do my part, but I still had that time frame in mind, and I was still hopeful that we'd be able to do this in time.
Sure.
And when I saw the article, I I thought, is there a possibility that 200 years I was given was wrong. And so I started just doing a lot of investigating, and I came across Guy McPherson's lecture.
There you go.
And there you go.
I
That's
knew
what
he was
happened.
going to come in here somewhere.
You knew.
Yes,
You knew.
I
You
knew.
he
I
had to
knew.
be there.
Had to be there.
Yeah, that when I heard his lecture, I knew he was right.
Did you have a sick feeling? I mean, did you
Oh,
have that?
oh,
Ugh,
yes. Yes. It was the most devastating thing. It was it was I really plummeted into a depression. And I know a lot of people experience what I'm talking about.
yeah.
And I became obsessed. I had to read everything. Like I was just inhaling articles,
Oh
just
my God.
inhaling them.
I'm quite with you. I'm really
I
quite with you. It
yes,
was the same thing.
yes. I think a lot of people who go through this very same stage. They are just they're devastated. We're depressed, and we are searching for proof. We're searching. Is this real? Could this possibly be real?
Right. Are we in some kind of nightmare? Is this a conspiracy? Is this bullshit? Is somebody telling us something that are the numbers right? Are these scientists out of their mind? I
Yeah.
know, I know, I know. I think, or come on, the same thing like you, 2100. Right? I didn't know
Right.
natural gas was. I listened to the commercials. It was like, oh, it's the clean energy. Okay, so I'll get natural gas in my house, one house.
Yeah.
We were clueless moronville.
We
But
knew what we were told. It's hard to know more, really.
same thing. And
Yeah.
then you told me you have more of the she's like me, like an empath, a person that cares about the others. And I think that's where your spiritual road through this whole thing took you to others. Tell us about that.
Sure. Well, I really did spend quite a bit of time in depression. I want to say that it was a good 6 months of just being so far down.
Oh my
But
God.
as I progressed, as I I moved through that depression, the very first thing I wanted was people to talk to. I I just really wanted to connect. And like a lot of people, I didn't have friends and family that I could
That's
talk
right.
to. I tried, I mean, I know everyone's had this experience. I've tried, and people would laugh at me. They would, there'd be derisive comments made. I would be shut down. And I just needed to talk to people who believed this
Yeah.
and wouldn't shut me down. That became urgent. And I had already been involved with the Facebook groups. I'd found them fairly soon, and I loved them. I think I got on, oh gosh, 3, 4, 5 of them, and I they were wonderful. I mean, they are still wonderful for just amassing articles,
Oh,
and
I know. We do it.
yeah,
5 years in
the
environmental coffee house on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, I was so grateful, for they just basically would find the information, and I could just go to these, basically one spot, more or less, Facebook, and find so many articles. And, and I started to, recognize some of the names over and over again. And on one of them, Mike Farragon's group, because he was admitting that it at the time was Near Term
Wasn't
Human
it?
Extinction Support
Support.
Group.
Oh, yeah, we all
Yeah.
found ourselves, well, all of us Facebookers in this genre found ourselves in that group.
Right. And, and I
Oh,
really
yeah.
appreciate Mike because he had a map, and it had all of these members on it. And so I started to reach out to people who lived where I lived. in Oregon, and I would email them, message them on Facebook and say, would you like to get together? Would you like to have coffee with me? And slowly just got to know as many people as I could in this area.
That's awesome,
So,
actually.
yeah.
Oregon's more receptive. Right now I am in the western New York part of rural America where it was probably 70-30, 70% Trump, 30% anybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not there's yeah, you have to travel. So that's why I'm online. And this was by
Mhm.
accident that I did it, but this is about you. Everybody knows about me here. We want to learn about Kristen and your motivations, and so keep going because I'm fascinated.
So just it was a slow glide into beginning to help other people. I eventually became an admin on the near term human extinction support group, and worked with Mike for, I don't know, a year and a half or so somewhere like that.
That's where I saw
And
you first.
yeah, I could,
Mm-hmm.
right, that's right.
Yep.
And I became a part. There was a group that was started here by Judy and Tom Den, and they started the group because of Guy here in
Mm-hmm.
Portland, and eventually I became a part of that group, and then helped facilitate it. And it is still going on. It's a good local group, and we
That's
have
awesome.
approximately 30 people who are on our email list, and about half of whom go to meetings at different parts of the time of the year. And
Even with COVID, just going masked.
well, we do Zoom meetings now.
Yeah,
So we
that's what
have
I
it. We
thought.
have a coterie, a small coterie of people who we've been meeting together for about 4 years. And during COVID, we started doing, happy hour, more or less, you could call it. Every Friday, we do a happy hour on Zoom, and it's been really good. It's been really helpful. This has been such a tough year.
Oh
2020,
God.
was so hard for everybody. And here in Oregon, we had to deal with the fires. That was our big, scary, scary
Hell
thing.
yeah.
Besides COVID,
That's
was the
incredibly
fires.
frightening.
Very, very scary. And I think we were all just so happy to have one another, to have this somebody that we could talk to about it. And it's like a lot of people would talk about the fires, but to talk to people who know where it's going. To
See, Poppy. Oh my God. Hi, Kristen. We talked when I
That's
first found the
nice.
group. You were
Hi,
so
Poppy.
encouraging.
That's
Isn't this
lovely.
perfect, guys, tonight?
That's so
Kristen's like,
fun.
Kristen, you're just coming in with us and melting in like just butter. It's perfect. It is. It's great. And we have so many people, I can't believe it, from Oregon and Washington. It's like
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
must I probably should sell everything and go to Eugene where my brother is. Maybe he'll take care of me. I get too old.
Well, Eugene's
This
like
is
a really
great.
sweet little
This is
town,
great.
city.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is. I used to travel a lot more um
Yeah.
out there, but this is really okay. So let's get back onto the support and the feeling. How long, well, we know the 5 stages of grief, and you went through those.
Mhm.
How long do you think you stayed in the depressive feeling?
I would have to say, a year. I think a year
Oh,
is
good year.
a very good estimate of how long I was in it. And I remember, at one point, I'm just laying in bed. It's hard for me to even get up. I'm just that
Oh,
so down. And I have a mentor. I study nonviolent communication. That's something that I study, and I'm a eternal student of it. And my mentor is Robert Gonzales, who's a wonderful teacher. And thankfully, I had just done a 2-year program with him, and he says, just allow yourself to have the feelings. Like, don't
Mhm.
fight it, don't try to change it, just allow yourself. And I'll tell you, after, several months of, major depression, it is hard to do that. And so I was sitting there talking to
Uh-huh.
I was talking to myself, and I said to myself, well, if there's anything worth feeling this horrible about, I think the end of the world is worth it. And that
I would
was
say
somehow, that
yes.
that gave me permission to feel that bad. And so I just, I kind of allowed myself to feel depressed until I just wasn't. And it's the oddest
Okay.
thing, it's the oddest thing how the mind and body will work together kind of behind the scenes. And all of
Well,
a sudden, I just wasn't depressed.
that's I think I kind of had a similar experience, but I threw myself into, I guess, immersing myself into this. I may have become hardened to some of this after you talk about it and you read all the science and you look at all the articles and have all the conversations, which you know are constantly being had. Those of us that are doing this do get a little numb, I guess. Have you ever felt that numbness?
I think I have felt, some burnout. So maybe that's what you mean by numbness. Just kind of burned out from the, the constant onslaught of of emotion,
Sure.
emotional waves, and the constant onslaught of emotional waves, and from other people, because of course, people who are new to this, they bring with them, just a lot of, all of that, right? All of
Absolutely.
that. They bring it with them. And, and it, one definitely does need to take some breaks, because it's hard to maintain that alert empathy, let's call it. It's like an alert empathy to be able to really sit with a person, when they are struggling with this information, they're
And
new to
there,
the information, they're
yeah,
struggling with it.
a lot of struggling. I have to take a little Jim McHenry break. Do you watch his climate protests in Gettysburg every week, every Friday? You
I
must
have
have
seen
seen
parts
him.
of it. I
Yeah.
have seen parts of
Well,
it.
I have to tell him right now, I'm really not moving. And they just sold their house to move to New York. And no, I'm not moving. I'm not leaving. I'm going to probably live in this house till I drop dead. I was just saying that because sometimes I get scared and think maybe I will be alone, but I feel like, and I want to know if you feel like this also. Do you ever feel like you're not alone because of the communities you've built, even though it's online and some people say, oh
Oh,
God, that's online, how pathetic, blah, blah, blah. I don't feel like that. Where else can we have people here with us probably from all over the world, the UK and Oregon and Oregon and Oregon. Oh, you were kidding.
yeah,
They were kidding. They didn't sell their house.
Australia.
Silly.
Yeah,
See,
I
we have
mean,
a very silly community here. We've built a lot of love here through Environmental Coffee
mhm.
House, too. And now you are here with us. It's so awesome. So let's go to back to where like because like boy, our feelings, our emotions, how did you feel like you reached out to other people? Like Poppy said, you helped her a lot. So I'd like to hear about that. I think that's wonderful.
Well, the first thing, I did was to just try to be empathetic. When I would read a post, I would try to be really in that person's shoes, which was actually very easy because I was in fact in their shoes. And but to just talk, but to talk to them about it, not to give advice,
Hmm.
um, but to just say, hey, I really know where you're coming from. I am in your shoes. I'm right there. And I have lost you. Is that okay?
I just wanted to put your beautiful face on the screen without me for a minute. I'm
Okay.
still with you.
Just checking, making sure.
I'm still with
Anyway,
you.
I realized that what people wanted was the same thing I wanted, was I didn't want to be alone. I wanted to know that somebody else understood. And that was the message that I would bring to, uh, that was the message that I would bring to people, was just, you're not alone. That's, we're happy to have you. It was another one, is, which we sincerely are. We're so happy to have you, and you're absolutely not alone. And I know exactly how you feel, and and I'm there with you. And I would, do my best to respond, in that sort of way, as much as I possibly could. And an international group in which is on 24 hours every single
Yes,
day.
every single day. Same thing with
Yeah,
Environmental Coffee House. Schedule, and I'm not doing it all the time, thank God. I always give a shout out to Jonathan O, who schedules, but every 2 hours. And it's not just specifically, abrupt climate change. We have the environmental umbrella. So in that sense, maybe it's a little easier because we put up all kinds of stuff. But it's always interesting. Sometimes, do you ever think there's saturation? Maybe either there's too much or not. What do you think of that?
Saturation of which?
Of climate change, that people are getting numb now in the last 2 years, that so much is coming out since David Wallace Wells, which Gary earlier, I think it was Gary earlier, had said in the chat that that was one of the articles that woke him up. I think it was Gary. Do you think sometimes people now are looking at this and feeling saturated, or do you notice anything out there in your travels that maybe signal that are the deniers winning? Just
I don't think the deniers are winning.
okay.
And I suspect that it's mostly having to do with the majority of people, I think, at this point, are noticing that the weather is very strange. And then you have the people who are having to deal with something pretty catastrophic. Whether it's the hurricanes or the fires or the derecho, whatever you want to point to, that, just about everybody in this country, and then of course Australia and the UK. And I'm speaking, of course, of English speaking countries only because those are very dominantly represented on the sites that I'm on,
Sure.
since they're English. But I of course they're in South America and other places that are not English speaking, who are facing enormous challenges. And I really don't think that we're saturated. Okay. I do imagine that what I'm imagining is that people are confused. They were kind of told that a lot of this stuff wasn't going to happen until 2050. And it seems to be happening now.
The fires are yeah, extremely frightening. We've been covering those on the page, and well, everybody has, and having Jennifer and I having our shows, and Antonio covering the sea level rise, and Nicholas, well, Nicholas, definitely Nicholas Humphrey.
Yeah.
He was very much involved in the support group, I believe. And
yeah, he's wonderful. He's wonderful. Yeah.
Wonderful. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fabulous people. You probably know Harry Gibbs,
Harry Gibbs.
Who does the climate and economy, and he's wonderful. I get a lot from him.
Yeah. Well, see, all of you on YouTube, there is a little corner of Facebook that does have a lot of support if you need it. And I know a lot of people on YouTube do not like Facebook because you don't blame them. I mean, because what's his name? Mark, and just being a big corporation, how they've grown to be so invasive. But the thing is, we have these are established groups, and people do get uh, comfortable. So there's nowhere else to go at the time being, is there, to move off of Facebook, where we're going to have the followings that give the people the comfort. Poppy said she gets all her news from Harry Gibbs. Poppy,
Yeah.
this is awesome. I'm so glad. Poppy's just, okay. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. See, Human says never Facebook, but maybe you don't know what you're missing, because the groups have a lot of really great people in them, and there's camaraderie. It's just there.
Well, I think that if one is doing fine for having, friends and or family, it might not be so necessary. But I think if one is feeling alone, then, there is a value to reaching out wherever you can. And Facebook could be used in the sense that one could go on it temporarily to find your people.
Mm-hmm.
And then connect with them in a different way. I have a couple of small groups. They're only 10 people. And we do use Facebook as our means to conduct our, small groupness. But they're meant to stay small. And it's a way of connecting. And we could go off of Facebook. We could probably do a very similar thing to what we're doing with a completely different medium. I mean, even possibly through just using an email. Like an email
email's difficult, though. It is. But it's a little bit more difficult.
It's not as easy, but
we got
with a
so
small
spoiled.
group, it could be done. If somebody was really just determined to be off Facebook,
like the old bulletin board systems.
Right. And
Reddit's helpful.
There's and there's Yahoo groups and I'm not sure what other groups there are on email, but I know that they exist that make it possible. But the main thing is to reach out and try to find people, because it's really valuable to have companionship. I think it's hard to go through hospice by yourself.
Oh my God, I couldn't agree more. It's true. And that's probably why I've immersed myself in what I have. And it's interesting for me, and again, I went through so much drama and trauma in my own life throughout my journey of waking up to the trauma and drama that the planet is going through and species are going through, that it seems to me that it had to be for a reason, that it's correlating all together. I mean, nobody has it easy. No one has an easy life. No. I'm so glad that, Twitter. She's talking Twitter. It's useful to follow climate scientists. Sure. And that I use Twitter for that. If I don't, I have to, actually. I have to be able to find all this stuff. It's tough, but So when you do, oops, I lost you for a second. When you do reach out, and if someone does need something, or you feel that, how do you approach them at first?
Well,
people ask.
Absolutely. It kind of depends on what it is. Like, I had a young man who was really feeling alone, and he wanted to other young people. And it is hard for young people sometimes to find other young people who will talk to them about doom. It's an understandable thing, but a lot of young people, they really don't want to think about extinction coming anytime soon. And so this young man, he just really wanted to have a few people he could talk to in his age group. And so I tried very hard to find people for him. I knew some people. Awesome. And I gave him some names, and I told them about him, and my hope is that he connected. And I mean, my feeling is that one doesn't need to have a very large group. Really, just one or two people that you can talk to can, many times just be
work wonders.
Quite enough. Yeah. Just to have people, somebody that you don't have to watch what you're saying. You can say exactly what's on your mind, exactly how you feel. You don't have the person saying, "Oh no, that's not true," or
Right.
try to look on the bright side.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I wish I had that clip, looking on the bright side of life. Isn't that
Yeah,
yeah,
that would
you know what
be
I'm talking about.
exactly right.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to pull that one up for a future show. And then the whistle. Ba-doot, da-doot. Yeah, well, that's that. Yeah, I
Right.
think that's exactly what I'm doing here on this corridor. I mean, we've got there are people moving to this area of Western New York because climate wise, it's very amenable to adapting for a while. You can buy land pretty cheap, grow. I do. I mean, I grow everything, and we have land here, so I'm privileged to be able to do that because not everybody can do anything like that. No. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, Monty Python. That's it. The Life of Brian. Thank you, Jim. I forget.
That's
I have
right.
so many things on my mind at any one time, and I think sometimes the function of that for me, I don't know, maybe if you this ever happens to you, I keep myself so engaged that I think maybe it's keeping me from sometimes sitting down and having another what the fuck
Mm-hmm.
moment.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure, sure. And so the other thing I've discovered, and I think one of the reasons why I started the smaller groups that I mentioned was, like you were talking about with the stages. There's of course there's denial, and there's anger, and there's depression, and all of the different
Bargaining.
stages. But that last stage, acceptance, uh, you know, um, when you come to acceptance, people really don't talk much, but I think
Yep. Hang on, she froze. Hang on,
stage.
guys. Okay, she's back. You only froze for a second.
Oh, okay. Do I need to repeat? Should I repeat what I said?
Yeah, you can. I didn't hear you,
Okay.
so why not?
Okay. Let me go ahead and repeat it.
Great.
Which is that there's what happens post acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really hear about that so much. So when you get to post acceptance, it actually can be a very spiritual place. A sacred place. And the two words that come to mind for it are witnessing what's going on and gratitude. Being in a place of deep gratitude. And I think it's one of the reasons why it's very hard, pretty much impossible for someone who's reached that acceptance stage to be in the same group with somebody who is a more hopeful, optimistic, we're going to be able to beat this kind of frame of mind.
You
Because
mean
when
the
you're in
Michael
that
Mann
hopeful,
group?
optimistic place, uh-oh,
No, I mean the
well,
Michael Mann
yeah,
group.
and Michael's
Yeah.
not the only one, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, right. Yeah, when you're in that hopeful place, you're always working hard for that future. It's like you're working so hard for the future that you're hoping will happen. You barely can notice what's happening around you.
Right now.
You can barely take a breath. And but when you get to that place of acceptance, what I call like post acceptance, suddenly the
Huh.
world just blooms for you. You just realize, oh my God, I didn't realize how amazing it is. I've been so busy working for a future or trying to make things better. I didn't realize how astonishing it is right now. And to be in that place of gratitude. And so
I love it.
so there was a real need for some groups for people who had come to that place. I have a group right now that I am doing for this particular stage. And I it's amazing what I'm learning from this group. It's amazing. These people are, they're so spirit filled. And they're really in that wow place. But there's also, I think, a real love of shared witnessing, like not just witnessing all of the terrible things that are happening, but that witnessing the beautiful things that are happening every day, which are
Every day. I think that's
the,
where I got finally, and it's living here
yeah,
with having a garden and growing my food,
yes,
and even growing right out in the greenhouse or right off my deck, and looking at those plants every single day and
every
caring
single
for
day.
them and talking to them and loving them, even the ones that are dying in the dining room, even just
Yeah,
loving them and the animals yeah, and not having to work towards a future because I have my future. I'm lucky that I have something tomorrow, but I'm older. I don't want my
yes,
32-year-old daughter is still thinking about future, yet she's not
yes,
having children because I think
hmm,
deep down they know, she knows.
yeah.
But hey, I have let's segue to children, because you have an interesting and a absolutely beautiful story about your own, if you don't mind, your own personal. I had put that in your bio. I love it. Tell us your story about children.
Well, I have two young men in my life, uh, both of whom I fostered at one point, and one of them went back to his mom and his dad, and one of them stayed with me. And it just recently, I adopted him, so I get to
That's
call him my son
fantastic.
now. I don't even
Okay, we're
have
going
to
to do
call him my
another
foster
applause.
son.
Yay! See, I think that's beautiful because he was already out there. You didn't create him, but you're
No, no,
creating him
I
and
didn't
you're
create
molding and
him.
shaping him. Beautiful
I
story.
just
Thank
gave him
you.
what I hoped would be a safe place to grow up. And yeah, it's an amazing thing. It's true that I had chosen not to have children. I had chosen because my interpretation of American culture is that we really dislike children, and in my 20s I was seriously thinking about having kids, except that I kept coming up against how much the culture, I don't mean individual people, I just mean the culture dislikes children. And I just couldn't, in the end, I couldn't give the culture children. I just couldn't bring children into a world in which all indications were they weren't wanted.
Oh, what an amazing decision that you came to on your own, and I have so much respect for that, and that you have taken on this young man, and he must be an amazing young man. He just
I
must be.
think so.
Yeah,
I
that's
think he's
awesome.
an amazing young man.
Oh, everybody's in the audience now, fellow non-breeder here. Well, I did once, but I bred a non-breeder. I mean, I say my daughter, she's named Dawn, my spawn Dawn. But it's an interesting,
Nice.
it always comes up. It's a question that comes up because you think about children,
Mhm.
and boy, I think about her, and she's 32. What about all her friends that are having kids, and those children? What are they going to see without, especially with not having the educational system or the tools to even handle anything? I mean, sitting behind a computer screen is not growing food or being able to prepare yourself for a pretty, catastrophic weather events, fires,
Yeah.
everything that's good. And they're in la la land because, well, media. I mean, they're kind of growing up in the HG. I always say this, the HGTV. Let's buy a bigger, better house, and their parents are just doing that, and they're going to be very, very ill equipped. But Tammy says,
Well,
nice story, courage.
yeah, I guess my ultimate feeling about people who have children now is, as I get it. I really understand, wanting to have
Sure.
children, and I'm really hoping they just enjoy the heck out of them. Just enjoy those children so much. You know, I
Yeah.
I think that if one is, a grandparent and is a doomer, and of course one feels, scared and worried about your grandchildren, but in the end, just really love those grandchildren. It's
Yeah, if you
amazing.
know,
It's an
because
amazing
you
thing.
can't, obviously you haven't been able to talk your children out of having children.
Yeah,
So
we can't stop ourselves from being the animals that we are. You know, I think that was something that kind of came to me this year. It was just realizing I'd kind of bought the idea that we were angels. That human beings were exceptional from other animals, that we were somehow these amazing creatures. And this year it really dawned on me, no, we really are animals for real, and we do exactly what animals would do if they had the tools we have. I have a crow family that lives in my backyard, and I guarantee you that if they had the kinds of tools that we have and the kinds of things that we have, they would do the same thing that we do with them. They
they would,
we
you think?
I really do.
You would
I
think that
really do.
the animals would be violent without a reason. Well, I
I
mean,
don't think so, but I
people
don't
do
think that
argue that
people.
point with me.
I don't think we're violent without a reason. I think human beings. I think our natural condition is to be. I think we're a lot like dogs. Our natural condition is to be
Oof.
tail wagging. Hey, let's be buddies.
Oh,
I
like
think that.
me, the
I
golden
think, yeah,
retriever. Yeah.
I think we just are naturally that way, and we really have to be taught to be mean. But you can teach us to be mean, just like you can teach a dog to be mean. It's very possible to teach a dog to be very aggressive, very violent, but it does take effort. Very few dogs are doing that as a natural thing. It's like if you think about the wild, if any video I've ever seen about wolves, I've never seen them talk about wolves as just crazy violent, right? They are wonderful to one another. They are a lovely group animal, and we're a
Mhm.
lovely group animal too, but we can be traumatized into being mean. And unfortunately we are traumatized. It's
Oh
just
my
the way
gosh.
it is for us. This is a very hard culture for us.
We got a beautiful comment. Kristen, totally agree about not judging. We can't judge those who have children because we're animals, and that's a form of self comfort we need. Most of us, at least. I mean, I wish I could tell young people to scream, say, don't have any kids. They're going to have a horrible future. Don't have any kids. Don't you see? Don't you see? But then I would be locked up and, you know, the loony bin if I ran around like that. Unfortunately, because that
Some
is
people
our.
would some people would listen to you. Some people would say, "Oh, I think you might be right." And some people wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't think many would listen, but Poppy said she doesn't know. Honestly, humanity is naturally hostile. Yeah, I've had this discussion. I have said we're the only species that will just murder for pleasure. And then, of course, I got jumped on in comments and they said, oh no, they gave me examples of a couple of other animals. But really, seriously, we are the human species. I'm not putting down, I love my friends. I love people. I love, love, love. But look I mean, all right, no, we're not going to go to the politics, but human beings really can be vicious. And you're saying it's learned behavior, of course, but
I'm saying that you can
it's
be,
got to
you
be
can,
in the
it
DNA.
really takes some effort to make us it mean, but it can be done. And it is obviously fairly routinely done in this culture, so I'm not arguing that people in this culture aren't, I'm not possibly more violent than they would be if they were in another culture. Um,
Hmm.
but
Yeah,
I
that's
do
interesting.
feel
But historically, I mean, historically, has collapse come from human behavior gone wrong, or was collapse in these civilizations from merely having things made out of lead that made them crazy and they went? Or it's this is a wild discussion when you get into the behavior of things, and you were interested, and you were telling me how you were interested in behavior, but the empathetic, calming, nice behavior, and helping people, and I do like that. It's such a pleasure to have you here. I
Oh,
think the
thank
whole
you.
chat is enjoying this. Does anybody have any questions for Kristen? And we have, let's see, David says we justify violence for whatever reason: food, security, pleasure. Well, and the wolves aren't doing that.
Yeah, I would say that if in a natural setting, most animals that are group animals
Okay.
are not going to be doing that because their survival depends on the group so very much. But I think that human beings don't scale up. We are meant to be group animals, but but our scale is meant to be more, like a family scale, like maybe 30 of us or maybe 50 of us. I've heard people, say 120, because I guess there's been some research that suggests that 120, but 120 people, I can still know all their names. I can still know them personally.
Yeah,
You know,
I
that's
do
still
on
that's
this.
still yeah, that's still a small
Yeah.
group. And when we live in small groups, we are so much less likely to be violent to one another because it really is important for us to be cooperative.
Maybe that's why that intentional community that I did a nice interview with Mike Sliwa, and he talked about the intentional community. Maybe that's the thing of the future. If humans are to survive in packets, that's all that's going to happen. If everything goes as it's, what is it, faster than previously expected. Jim says Tanya said the nation is a nation of violence and war. We've normalized it, so the citizens don't realize how awful we are. That's a psychological construct right there. It's brainwashing. And using behavioral modification to make human beings like that. But where would you like to go? Do you have anything that you'd like to bring up and use the venue? You're here with me.
Well, I think that one of my goals is just try to help people connect up, and there the two groups that I know that are just really good at that is Near Term Human Extinction Support Group that Paul Chen is one of the
Yep.
admins for. I happen to know Paul. I know there are a lot of other admins that are on that group, but I don't know them personally, so I can't talk about them by name. But Paul, I can. And then there's Wendy Bandersky's Near Term
I know,
Human
Wendy.
Extinction Love Group, and that's both of those groups are just great groups for just getting connected. I think they both have maps where you can potentially meet people who are in your area. But with Zoom, you aren't stuck with anybody in your area. And Zoom is a wonderful way of connecting with people who are other places. And yeah, you just showed one of the groups that I admin on. So I admin on climate change facts and consequences, and that was started by Robert Dupuy, and now I admin it with Jan Wiley, and I love Jan. He does such a
I love
great
him
job.
too.
Yeah, and he and I admin that group, which is basically a straight ahead data group, and not so
And
much a
yeah,
support group.
but it's sobering. It's right in your face,
Oh,
and it is a so and
it
Jan
is
and
data.
his passion is the data, and I mean he's
Oh
got
yeah, if you
big
need
stuff he's
data,
working on.
Yan is a great place to go. And then the other one, extreme weather events, is actually not focused on climate change, but if you are on that site, you just see it in the weather.
Right,
People,
you're
people on
correlating.
that site are essentially weather geeks, and there are a lot of people who will take pictures of the weather they're having, or they'll send videos, and it really gives you this incredible overview of what's happening around the world weather-wise. So it's another place to get data.
So there's not as many people as admitting those groups that need that'll come on and say, I'm really
Right.
depressed, I'm really unhappy. This is more, so this is the stuff that is in your face, though. That's the stuff you deal with. You're on these. You're moderating or administrating
I
every
am
day. It's in
constantly,
your
I
face.
am constantly looking at data, which is really kind of amazing. Sometimes I just think, Kristen, how in the world are you looking at all this data and still okay? But I'm still okay, you
Yeah,
know.
I'm learning it also. Jennifer and I did our show. Was it? Yeah, last night, and one of the articles had graphs that were even more than we even were. We weren't educated in them. We kept asking everybody, do you have
Wow.
it? But go back, and there's so much out there. I mean, I worked in research
Yeah.
20 years. I know the PI job, the principal investigators, and the data compilation. But Jan puts it all together. He's onto something with putting everything together, and
Hmm.
that's what impresses me about Jan Wiley. And
Yeah.
Jennifer gets some of her articles for the show, from Jan.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Good place
It's
to
kind
go
of a
for
small
sure.
world. It's kind of a small world. I noticed when I go on or I'll watch a YouTube with a lot of people are on it, I see a lot of names, YouTube names, handles that
Mm-hmm.
we're all going
Yeah.
around the same loop. But I suppose that that's like that with a lot of different genres. I don't consider us a genre. How could we be a genre?
Not
This is freaking life. This
this
is
is
what's
I
happening.
I
There's no
agree.
genre.
I agree. I think the other thing that I'd love to say is just if if somebody who's watching this show has people skills, if you have psychology skills, if you have empathy skills, if you studied nonviolent communication, you know to really consider um, as a possibility reaching out to people and helping people with making groups. It's hard. A lot of people feel very nervous about creating groups. It's a wonderful way to help. I think that a lot of people think it's only scientists that can help during this time, but we're in a hospice time, and having people who can help people with the psychology is amazing. So if you have that kind of knowledge, I just urge you to really consider trying to reach out to people and connect people, because you'll do such a service. I've I love helping people connect up.
That's
It makes me
beautiful.
very happy.
I think that's beautiful. And Hoople says community's everything, and he has a channel, and it's sort of a prepper channel, but he also is an RN, so he has taught all about masks and mask care, and he's up in Canada. It is
Nice.
community. This is a community. I am grateful for. I'm grateful for. I guess I'm in that gratitude thing too. I'm grateful for the gosh darn guy that could come
Yeah.
plow up my bulldozer. That you'll get my septic clean for me in January. I mean, I'm grateful for the gal that called me today, who is going to get a couple of kids over to bring firewood up to my deck and line it up for the rest that'll last. Just so many good things, even when all the stress and the bad things happen. I think about the fact that I have this venue, and now Kristen, you're with us. You're part of the team. You're part of the family. Also, we're anointing Kristen part of Environmental Coffee House, and I'll do the other applause. Yay! We are so happy. Really, it's been almost an hour. I mean, I feel like we could just go on and on. This has been fascinating. You are extremely interesting.
Oh,
And
thank you.
let's see. Look at this. Kristen Kristen is such an awesome person. What hurts me most about the end time people is like her are going to disappear without a trace, as if she never was. No legacy for wonderful people like her or any of us. Yeah, but our legacy's with each other. That's all we can say. Our legacy. It's and you know what, sweetheart? I understand that for the biosphere, and at least we got to be touched by each other. mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so grateful that I was able to say, Kristen, come on with me. And it was what, 2 days ago? And I said, I'm going to do this. Jan mentioned, he said, you'll really click with Kristen. I'm like, I am so happy. And I will be happy now probably for a couple of days. And it's just
Well,
from
that's
touching
wonderful.
another human being. All of us, we're all
Absolutely.
here.
I feel the same way. I mean, it's been amazing to have this conversation with you, and I just love just being able to connect like this.
Yeah,
It
and we
always puts
will.
me in a good mood.
It does. And even writing in the Facebook groups, when you do connect with the people, we have a group called, it's just a silly little 60 is the new 40. So you can't join yet. And and we post just stupid memes. And you just go in there. I started it because I figured I'll just bring, we have about 30 women, and we just post memes, and we know that we can go in there and just see a little meme that makes us not feel so old and so decrepit, and we can laugh. But it's just, I think life, in even though we were given all the tools to make life easier, and all the medical and all the this and that, I think it's been harder on our bodies. I think disease hits us even more than it may have 200 years ago, different diseases. But I don't know, maybe it's because people live longer, but it is definitely healthy to do this. Poppy said, I'm not afraid to reach out and make things happen. We're making it happen. Yay! Oh yeah, we're gonna put a little bit of music on. Let's dance. All right, we're gonna close out with a little bit of music. And let's see. Oh, Poppy says, great Facebook group is two old broads on a farm. Poppy, I had no idea you were such a plethora of information. This has definitely been, I mean, guys, it's been great to have you, but I've loved having the chick show. Woohoo, it's been great. I'm in a good mood. All right, everyone. Raza, Tanya, Poppy, Hoops, thanks for coming, Hoops. Hooples Cat and Brian and Gary and Cindy and Hunter. And, I don't know who's here from. Oh, Troy, you're on Facebook. And Janet's on Facebook. I don't know why I can't see you guys on this thing. It's supposed to be that way, but this has been wonderful. Osama, wonderful, wonderful musician, good friend of mine. Everybody, you going to come back, Kristen?
Oh, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, we definitely have to continue this. Perhaps we'll do a Jennifer, Kristen, and Sandy show. Everybody would like that, right? Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I'm going to say goodnight. And Brian, I'm really glad you caught live also. He's from Oregon. And like I said,
Nice.
this is like,
Very
and
nice.
Kim is in Washington. And so, we got Texas in the house. We got the UK in the house. Oh, lightning rod. Cool out. Cool. All right, guys. Good night. We will see you on Thursday. Kristen, thank you. This was absolutely just fun. This is how I am. I get goofy the later I go. And plus, I got to take our names off and say good night for the 40th time.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Mwah.